it is my sense that the Biden administration does not have any desire to go to war with Russia. They may have a desire to maintain NATO cohesiveness. I do not believe that the Biden administration is terribly invested in the idea of Ukraine joining NATO. I've said in the past that I believe that NATO in many respects has outlived its usefulness. There are other, that does not mean that I don't believe that U.S. shouldn't have a relationship with our allies that are defensive, but I just don't think that Russia represents the same threat to Europe that the USSR did in the 50s and 60s and maybe the 70s. I just don't think it's the same because it's not. Even Ukraine right now, and you know, it's hard for us to understand exactly why Ukraine would say one thing or why they would say another, or why the United States would say one thing or another. At this point, we don't have the same information that they have. But Ukraine says that Russia just does not have the capacity to do the invasion that it appears like they are posturing that they're going to do.
Posturing is the right word for it, because a lot of this from the U.S. and from Russia is chest puffing.
Probably, but at the same time, doesn't seem to be any refutation of the idea that there are over 100,000 troops that have moved to the border with Ukraine. There's probably more than 130,000 that are there. I don't know how many are normally stationed there.
Although they have done this before in previous years.
Yes,
indeed. I mean, it is.
The chest puffing can be elaborate. It can be expansive puff. Well,
and it's also not. There's a reason why they do the puffing. It could be to sort of like test the cohesiveness of NATO. It could be for domestic reasons that Putin has. It could be to jack up the price of oil, which would be also a function of, some domestic issues that Putin might have. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons.
Right. I mean, and looking strong is part of his brand. Like, it's the same way that, Netanyahu used to drum up conflict and try to look strong when he was feeling weak politically. I think Putin does the same similar thing as well.
All leaders. But one thing is quite clear, at least in terms of the way this is playing out in the United States. To the extent there are more and less aggressive responses to what Russia is doing, largely, obviously, I think you find the most progressive people in our government who are most interested in not getting too aggressive. The Biden administration, I would say, is in the middle of that spectrum. Here is Lindsey Graham, and while we have seen talk of sanctions and punishment that are conditioned upon what the Russians do, here's Lindsey Graham arguing we're already late to the party in terms of imposing sanctions.
What do you make of this overall strategy we're seeing from the administration, releasing this intelligence about possible invasion, saying imminent invasion, saying maybe there'll be a false flag operation? Do you think that maybe has been effective in pushing Putin back?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't want to ring an alarm bell as much as take action. They're telling us the invasion is imminent, but they're not telling Putin with clarity what happens if you invade. He should be punished now. What I can't get over is that the world is allowing him to do all this without consequence. The guy took the Crimea in 2014. He's got 100,000 troops amassed on the Ukrainian border, and he's paying no price at all. So I'd like to hit him now for the provocation and have sanctions spelled out very clearly what happens to the ruble and his oil and gas economy. I think that's what's missing. We're talking way too much and we're doing too little.
Now, there's another way to interpret what Lindsey Graham wants, is he wants more conflict. And one of the ways you get more conflict is by, he's basically saying, like, I want to take the first punch.
Yeah, right.
And so we might as well take the first punch, and then this is his logic, and then then the fight's over.
Yeah. Then he'll go crawling back and retreat, right? That seems like the kind of guy Putin is.
If we do a small injury to him, it will end the entire conflict. That's what I would have you believe, Stephanopoulos. Yeah, except for in this instance, we're not going to knock you out. We're just going to, Mama say, jab at you.
Yeah.
Just jab at you as a way of punishing you. I mean, it's just, I can't even believe, like, there wouldn't be enormous pushback on what Lindsey Graham's saying, except for the fact that we have, there's a mentality in this country that is just absurd, it seems to me. But just to be clear, Lindsey Graham, very, very skeptical of Russiagate, right? I mean, he was a Trump supporter. And the idea that we have been told is that Russiagate is driving the idea of a U.S. response in this instance. And yet it is the Republicans who are getting out front trying to stoke a conflict.
They love, I mean, this is nothing new, but Lindsey Graham gets off on that kind of stuff, just the projection of American might. And it really is childish. It really is, because they just want the appearance of strength at all costs. Doesn't really matter.
John McCain came to the end of my bed last night in a dream. And he was a little bummed about how much I kissed Donald Trump's ass. But he did say, you can make it up to me if we somehow manage to start World War III with Russia.
This is how I want to honor my friend.
It's the only thing that he came to me at the end, and then he gave me a small Bible.